that are watching this video today have a loved one whose life has been tragically changed by drugs and alcohol. Maybe you say to yourself that I can't help them and I want to give up on them. But I will say to you today is don't give up on them. There is an opportunity and a chance for recovery. I've seen this happen. I worked as a counselor for over 20-some years, dealing with people that had severe problems with drugs and alcohol from their childhood to adulthood. And I've seen lives change. I've seen lives restored. You know, Jesus said, I come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. And through him, that can happen. I'm reminded of a story of the Good Samaritan. There was a man that was leaving from Jericho to Jerusalem. He had a place where he departed from, and he had an origin of destination where he wanted to arrive. He had a goal in mind. He said, I'm going to leave Jericho and I'm going to head to Jerusalem. On his way, he discovered that as he began this journey, and what usually happened to us is that in between time is from the moment of our departure and before we reach our goal, before we get to where we're going, that in between time, he had dreams. He had a place that he wanted to get to. He maybe wanted to start a business or meet some loved ones. But on his way, he was beaten and robbed and left for dead. Many of our young people, and many of you today, might still be wrestling with drugs and alcohol. But you started out one day. You didn't just wake up and say, I'm going to become addicted to drugs. I'm going to be an addict. I'm going to be addicted to gambling or whatever you're addicted to. You didn't wake up one day and say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to destroy my life. You had dreams of maybe becoming a doctor, a lawyer, a nurse, a school teacher, or whatever. But because of circumstances, maybe the breakup of a marriage, a broken home, being raped or abused as a child, these things robbed you and left you for dead and kept you from reaching your goal. So you began to use drugs and alcohol to get away from the pain. I talked to many young people, and they say to me, Dr. Carter, I didn't start out my life this way. I had some goals. I had some dreams. I had a place that I wanted to go. But because of what happened to me as a child, but because of what happened to me in my family, the breakup of the home, abuse in the family, my father was an alcoholic, my mother drank, they abused, they beat me, they used drugs. And many parents, believe it or not, use drugs with their kids. They party with their kids, they drink with their kids. And so this destructive behavior left you for dead. It kept you from reaching your goal. It robbed you. It beat you up. And now you feel you're in a place of hopelessness. A family member that wanted to reach out to you feel like there's nothing they can do to help you. So continue with my story. This man was beaten and left for dead. The Good Samaritan, the priest and the Levite came by and they saw this man lying on the ground, beaten and robbed. And they said, what will happen to me if I stop to help this man? He might be faking. He might have friends that want to rob me too, burglarize my home or do something tragic to me. So they crossed on the other side. They didn't want to help him. But then the Good Samaritan came by and reversed the question. He said, not what would happen to me if I stopped to help this man, but the question is, what would happen to him if I don't stop to help him? So he picked him up put him in his car and took him to a place of recovery and invested in that man's recovery because he knew that healing takes time. We have an obligation to invest in the lives of our loved ones, our friends, and even strangers to help them reach their personal goal, to help them be healed so they can go on and be a productive part of society. Many people are broken today and wounded and shattered by their past. But there is a way out through treatment, through good counseling, through love of family and friends. You can make it. I always tell people, believe it and receive it. Doubt it and do without it. Everything that we have begins in the mind. If you never see yourself successful, you'll never be successful. Your attitude affects your behavior. If your attitude is one of failure, seeing yourself never going forward, seeing yourself never reaching your potential in life, guess what? You behave that way. But no matter how dark it seems, there is a silver lining. I heard one person say, only when it's dark enough can you see the stars. So it may be dark in your life right now. Things may not be going the way that you want it. But you know what? When you walk outside at night and you look up and see the stars, you know that the light is shining back. Keep coming back to the website. Listen to the testimonies. Listen and begin to believe. Change your life. Keep coming back and say, I can do this. And begin to believe that you can. And you will. History could be waiting for you to make that change. But before the Wright brothers, we didn't have airplanes. But they believed that they could fly. And people would say, man, it's never flown before. You can't do this. But you got to know that you know that you know that God instilled that in you to be a winner, not a loser. When all of life is saying down, with his help, he's saying up. When all of life is pushing you back, he's pulling you forward. The Wright brothers said, we can fly, because they looked up into the heavens and saw a bird flying. And because they saw it in their mind, they believed it and they received it, and they didn't doubt it. And because they didn't doubt it, we're not doing without it. We're flying today. Same thing with the telephone. Alexander Graham Bell believed that one day he could create a device where we could talk to loved ones over the wire. And guess what? Because of that dream and that determination, we are talking today. Not only with that dream years ago, now we can take our telephones wherever we go. In our car, we can text, we can email, we can watch videos. Because of one man's dream, that it can be done. It can be done. It can happen. I want to close with a personal story of mine. I grew up in a little small town in Arkansas. I was born with an impediment of speech. I stumbled so bad, I couldn't pick up the telephone to say hello. And in elementary school, my teacher would ask me to recite, and I couldn't do it. My words would freeze in my mouth. And I would run home and cry. And my mother would say, little Johnny, what's wrong with you? And I would say, Mama, I can't talk. My friends laughed at me. She said, you got to see yourself talking. You got to believe it and receive it. If you doubt it, you'll do without it. Well, my mother passed away when I was 29 years old. And when I got into junior high school, And prom time came. I had a dilemma and a challenge because when I got ready to ask the young lady to go to the prom, my words froze in my mouth, and by the time I said, baby, somebody else had her and gone. So I had to believe that I could talk, and I saw myself every day talking. And with the help and my faith in God, He helped me to overcome these challenges and that dilemma. And in 1985, I was honored by the city and the county. Later that year, I was honored by former President Ronald Reagan. And I've traveled the country. I've been on major TV programs talking to people about their lives. And even many of you have seen the movie Back to the Future, where, John DeLorean developed that car. I had an opportunity to meet John DeLorean in the 80s. We became good friends. I traveled with him, provided some counseling for him, and his life was changed. He became a born-again believer. So nothing is impossible. Believe it and receive it. Doubt it.